Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at the Black Student Experience PWI edition, a student panel. A few weeks ago, we did the HBCU Student Experience panel, where we heard from 5 great HBCU students telling us about their current HBCU experience. Not current, but current outside of COVID. And so they gave us a lot of great things to think about, a lot of insight around academics, extracurricular, leadership, career prep, all that kind of great information. And so we're glad now to have a group of 5 new students from wonderful institutions, which are all PWI institutions. So we're getting their perspective in some of those same categories. So I'm gonna kick it to Shamel, my amazing co-host for all of these panels that we've been doing. So she'll introduce herself and then we'll go through and introduce each of our panelists for tonight.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're super excited. My name is Shamel Ingram Yamofio, and I am a school counselor during the day. And on the side, I have Keys to College, which is an organization that it's a college prep organization, because I realized that the students I've worked with have been very underprepared, and I want to be able to just inform students about the college application process, which starts super early. So I want to empower students and families to get to and through college. So welcome, and Danielle is going to tell you a little bit about what she does.
Yeah, I completely realized I didn't tell you what I do or who I am. So my name is Danielle. I'm an author of the College Visit Journal. It is a guided journal for students who are going on college visits and campus tours. It works well virtually also, but it really helps the students note and record their considerations about every campus, and allows them to really do some critical thinking about what they're seeing, hearing, feeling, and doing across campus, with the hopes that they can make a well-rounded, fully informed decision on where they want to spend the next 4 years studying. So that's me, College Visit Journal. Thank you so much for being here.
And Danielle is a TCU graduate. Texas.
Yes, I did. I went to TCU. Go from my Texas shirt here.
Texas hard.
Yeah.
Born and bred. And so I went to UNC Chapel Hill.
Woo-hoo. Yes. So we just want to go from the top. Raven, you're in the first quadrant. If you want to go ahead and start us off and introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Raven. I go to Old Dominion University. I'm in my 4th year of college right now, hoping to make this my last year. My major is sports management, and I'm from PG County, Maryland.
Sam?
Hey everyone, my name is Sam Ndukwe. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I attend UNC Chapel Hill. I'm also a rising senior, and I'm studying health policy and management.
Sean?
Hello everyone, my name is Sean Payne. I am a rising sophomore. I am from Keller, Texas, about 30 minutes outside of Fort Worth, and I go to Texas Christian University, and I'm a double major in accounting and finance.
Brianna?
Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Clinkscales, but I go by Bree. I am a rising junior at Duke University. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am majoring in chemistry with a double minor in biology and education.
And Faith?
Hi, I'm Faith Aloka. I am a rising senior at Princeton, and I'm majoring in African American Studies with certificates in theater and music theater, and I currently live in Trenton, New Jersey.
Yay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we are going to dive right in. If you're just joining us, real quick, if you have questions, we're going to try and cover all the questions folks asked when they registered. If you have questions, it's the Q&A box at the bottom, and all of our panelists have put their social media handles in the chat off to the side. So feel free to reach out to them at the conclusion, or if you have other questions. So my first question to everyone is about COVID-19. So how did your university first respond to COVID-19 in the spring semester? And have they shared any reopening or safety plans and details for the fall? Go ahead, Raven.
So my Old Dominion, they are usually pretty good with letting students know what's going on, keeping the communication open. So they responded pretty soon, and I think that it was pretty effective. As far as the reopening, they're saying that it's going to be pretty much mixed, but they want to focus on giving first-year students that first-year experience. So they're mostly the ones who are going to be on campus. But other than that, Old Dominion, they're really good with the communication between the students and the faculty.
Yeah, I would say similar to Raven. Duke has been pretty good with communicating to us what's going on. I swear I get an email like every single day from them. But like in the beginning, we had like a very quick response, and then like definitely lots of follow-up, lots of frequently asked question pages, a bunch of things. But for the fall semester, we're all gonna come back to campus, but they're working on making sure that everyone is social distance. So they've been leasing new apartments, and they just recently like released our like move-in plans and all of the steps that we'll take and how we'll like move in like waves and things like that. But they definitely are similarly focusing on that freshman experience and making sure all the freshmen, so at Duke you have like a random roommate, so but this year that won't be the case, and everyone will have like single dorms, which is why they're renting more places out.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, for Princeton, it's kind of similar, like with the emphasis on the freshman experience. So freshmen and juniors are going back in the fall, and then seniors and sophomores are going back in the spring. But they did handle it well initially, where it was like during the spring break period when they had everyone basically leave campus, and they allowed students who couldn't leave campus for whatever reason to also stay on campus. And then they provided summer housing for certain people. And like similarly for this year as well, if you can't stay at home for whatever reason, they will allow you to come back, but you just need a valid excuse. So like it hasn't been bad, and they've been very communicative, but yeah, there's
So TCU is kind of like Faith in the initial response. Everybody got called back while we were on spring break, so I never went back after spring break. I was lucky enough to live really close to Fort Worth, so I was able to move my dorm out. But a lot of people didn't really get moved out until June because they couldn't fly back from their state wherever they were to get their stuff. And so, however, next semester, TCU plans on having everybody back to campus. I'm an RA, and so we're about to go through training for what the social distance within the dorm is going to look like. But they've been talking about the cleaning that they're going to do and all the social distancing, like in the cafeterias and eating places. So, I'm excited. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm excited to see it.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah, and our school is similar to I guess with Duke and not ODU and Princeton, I guess, because everybody's going back in the fall, like back on campus, but all the classes will be online. And similar to Sean, I'm about to be an RA. We actually move in like next week. We start training. So it's gonna be interesting. Social distancing, everyone's gonna try to do their best. But yeah, we'll see.
Are they going to test you all, Sam?
Oh, COVID, yeah, they're gonna test us all. I mean, all the RA stuff I plan to do virtually. Like, I am not settling any fights in person or anything like that. We're gonna have to work on our talking skills because, yeah.
It'll definitely be an exercise in strong communication.
Yeah.
So speaking of moving onto campus, take us back to kind of your freshman year when you first went on campus. What was the hardest thing to adapt to being away from home, and what adjustment advice do you have, especially if you're out of state?
So up at Old Dominion, freshman dorms is when usually how Old Dominion was set up is 2 people to the dorm, share a bathroom in between. I would say that when they tell you that you make, your best friends in the freshman dorm, like you kind of do, because, you're living with those people. Everybody in there is going through the same thing. So the best adjustment advice I would have to anybody is just to really not go out of your way, but put yourself out there to make friends, because those are the people who y'all are all going on the same journey. A lot of people are feeling the same way. So you can all, bounce off each other, feed off of each other, that kind of thing.
I agree with that. I'm sorry, was someone else gonna speak?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say I totally agree with that. I mean, given COVID, it won't be as easy, because freshman year it was one of your friends say, "Hey, we're over here," you go over there. If someone says we're over here, you just go. So I think that's what I like best about freshman year. I feel like it's just starting like a whole new start. It wasn't hard for me to get up, like to kind of leave home. I was like, finally, you know, like somewhere. College was fun to me. But I totally agree with making friends. But I think even if it's virtual or maybe it's a little bit more socially distant, don't be afraid to meet people, because yeah, freshman year, I think even with COVID, it's definitely memorable. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Oh,
Go ahead.
Sean, you go ahead. You already go? Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree about the friend making. I don't agree. I was terrified to go to Duke. I'm going to be honest. My freshman year, I remember I was so scared. But I would say definitely time management. That's a kicker right there. You definitely want to make sure you can manage your time, go to class. Eating is something you also have to do. So try to do that. So that was a big thing for me. And also focusing on not like on you and not comparing yourself. I felt like when I was at Duke, I was always comparing myself to someone else. I was like, look at her, look at him, he's doing so much better. So, but like just adjusting and realizing you're going to do your best every single day is my biggest advice. And just like stay on your path, on your journey, and don't worry about everyone else, because it's harder said than done. But like, if you can do that, then you got it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was blessed to have my own room. I lived in a suite my freshman year, actually on TCU, and I'm naturally introverted, so I had the problem of not putting myself out there enough. And so my biggest advice is if I know with COVID it's gonna be hard, but whatever events, whatever clubs you can go to or try and join, whether it's virtually or not, just go and do it. Because that's the people you're gonna meet at the end of the day, and those are people you're gonna grow with. So.
Yeah, to piggyback on what he's saying, it might have been cool in high school to not be involved and not want to be anywhere, but in college, you're going to find out you're going to be sad and lonely. So you really got to go out.
Yeah, I feel like even with that, like from my freshman experience, I think I did too much. Like I got involved in so many extracurriculars that I became really overwhelmed. And it also affected my grades. So I would really advise you, like, while you're trying to be social, like you want to join all these clubs, like also prioritize your own self-care and your mental health. So when you feel like you're being, like you feel like you're doing too much, you're being pulled to your end, like take a step back. It's okay to say no, to say I can't do it this time, and just like take time for yourself. So like definitely be social, explore things, try new things, and like challenge yourself. But also be check in with yourself and be careful when to say like I've had enough for now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all so much for your answers. Now we're going to move on to academic success. So we're just going to take a poll with a show of hands so we can discuss your college application process. So raise your hand if you apply to more than 5 schools. Okay, cool. That's 4 out of 5. Cool. Let's see. Did you raise your hand if you had guidance throughout or support throughout your process? Okay, so that's everybody. Okay. Sean, a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Raise your hand if you had AP credit when you came into college. Like if your college accepted your AP credits. Okay. 3. Okay, cool. And so now, how did you decide on your school? So if everybody wants to answer, you can, but you got to be brief. Everybody does not have to answer. Maybe 2 to 3 folks, or if you just really want to answer, keep it short, please. But how did you decide on your school? Go.
I chose Princeton just because of the financial aid. I live in a single parent household, so I wanted to go to school for free, and they were able to offer that.
Yeah, similar to Faith, I got a full merit scholarship to Duke, and that was one of my top priorities, to not have to pay for school as well.
Piggybacking off of them, TCU was one of my options. It wasn't free, but it was the cheapest out of all of them. So that was why,
Okay. All right. And let's see, do you have to always prove that you are capable to your colleagues or professors? And let me give a little bit of background. I think because we kind of advertise this as the Black student experience at PWIs, a lot of questions came in about race, how you fit in as a Black student. So let me read the question again. Do you always have to prove that you are capable to your colleagues and professors? So maybe two or three panelists.
So I would say that in maybe my first 2 years, maybe more so my first going into my second year, I definitely felt that I had more to prove just because it was a PWI. Often I was maybe one of maybe 3 Black kids in the classroom. So I did often feel like maybe I had a little bit more to prove. I found myself just being real engaged in class. And after a while, after maybe my 3rd, 4th year, you kind of realize that, yes, while they might have, while other races at the institution might be given different opportunities, at the end of the day, you're all at the same school. Like, they're no better than you. They're sitting in the same classroom as you. They're taking the same class as you. They may be getting the same degree as you. So you don't want to fall into the trying to prove it to yourself, because you already proved it to yourself because you're in the same classroom as them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would say definitely the first year, I found myself feeling like I had to prove myself, only raising my hand if I felt like I knew the answer or my response would sound really smart or something like that. But I think after a while, like, I just kind of got tired. Like, it's tiring. And just like Raven said, I mean, you're just as capable. If you weren't, you wouldn't be at the school. Like, obviously, we're all in the same classroom. So that was a big thing for me, just like not hustling to feel like I was one of the group because I was already in the group. So why do you need to prove your capability? You're already there.
Yeah, I think I also fell into that trap. I think a lot of us do when we get there first year, because not only you want to prove you're like better than people in your class, but also you want to prove, like, of the Black students that got in, I'm one of the best Black students as well. And I think that's just like subconscious, this like desire that we feel to be like the best, kind of that crab in a barrel mentality. And yeah, I think I got exhausted after sophomore year, throwing yourself in every club, trying to get the best GPA, trying to still be social. It's too much. I think you have to realize, like, make your priorities, decide what you really care about. And I believe, like, your resume, all of that will come together, when you're genuine, because they see right through that when you apply for a job, when you apply for a medical school, law school, they see right through all that. So you just got to be yourself.
Thank you. Sean, you want to say something?
Yeah. If you've ever met me, I played a lot of football in high school, and I'm kind of built like a football player. So I went to TCU, and I own a whole bunch of TCU football gear. Everybody just kind of assumed that I play football, and all the professors assume you play football. And not saying that football players are dumb, but generally stigmatized football players are known to be dumb. And so I had to fight past that a lot in the first 2 semesters, working with professors. And, when study groups start to form, you find yourself not included because they think you're the dumb football player until the first test grade comes out. And so that was the times I really had to prove myself. Like, I wasn't proving myself to anybody but myself, just to know, like, I can compete with these people. I'm just as equal as they are.
Gotcha. I know everybody doesn't have to answer, but Faye, did you have anything to add?
I just would, like, I agree with everything that people said, like having imposter syndrome. I think for me, it was mostly trying to prove to myself that I was like learning and I was worthy of being there. Like, no one was challenging me, at least like no actively, but I was challenging myself. So I also had to get out of my head, like, you are good enough and you can do it. Like, you know what you're doing here.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, so thank you. Next question. How can educators or counselors better equip students to choose between an HBCU and a PWI? Now, for some of you all, you might not have an answer because you might not have been considering HBCUs at all. But for a few of you, what can counselors or educators do to help students decide between the two? Or what did you do to decide?
So Howard was my number one. I was really passionate about going there, and I got in, but then the financial aid wasn't that well. But based on like the advice that I received, like, there was a lot of, you should choose the PWI or Princeton in this case because it's better and the reputation is better. But I feel like they need to be more understanding and willing to hear what the student really wants out of their college experience, because I feel like that's what matters most. And then just like they can advise better, like more objectively than trying to like skew you one way or the other, or like trying to talk down upon the other. And even like with choosing Princeton, like a lot of Princeton students got a lot of hate from like HBCU advocates saying, oh, you're selling out of your community. So I think there needs to be a better conversation that isn't so like one-sided on which your like students should choose.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Faith. I think it should be based more on like what your students' priorities are. And you kind of have to like check your own biases about how you feel about HBCUs or PWIs and really just listen to what your student is asking for. So if they're like, I want to be close to home and the HBCU is the closest one to their house, then that's the one we should probably look more at. If they're like, I want a full ride or something, and the HBCU they're looking at doesn't provide that, then you may have to shift focus, because it should always be based on what the student needs and what they're looking to get out of their college experience.
I would say my thing, like Faith, Howard was my number one as well. My cousin actually goes to Howard. So I knew somebody who could come and tell me what the student experience was like at Howard, but I didn't know anybody at TCU. So nobody could come and tell me what that experience was like. Well, my parents, but that was years ago. I would say as an educator, if you could find a current student, just somebody that you know or somebody in your network that currently goes to that campus or lives on that campus that can come and tell whoever plans on going to that school about that college experience, I think that would really help, because there is a difference between living on going to school at the HBCU and a PWI, but it doesn't mean one's worse than the other one. It just means it's different, and the student has to hear that from somebody who actually knows and has gone through those experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good advice. Hearing it from students actually there. Okay, so thinking about academic rigor of your classes and your major, did you feel like your high school prepared you for college? And if so, how?
So the high school that I'm coming from, a lot of the students at the high school, the options was very limited, just because a lot of students at my high school, the focus was more on getting kids to graduate than getting kids to go to college. So a lot of the times when it was the bunch of us who was trying to go to college and we're asking the teachers like, oh, we want to do this, we want to do this, we do that, they're more focused on whatever project they need to get somebody to graduate. So I just think that, so a lot of the times if you're coming from a situation like me, you might just have to push yourself. Like it's a sad case, but you might just have to go about that yourself and know that you're just trying to progress further than your situation was being presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm finished.
I'm fighting not to say something, but I'm gonna let Sean go. I'm gonna say something though.
All right. I was blessed to come from I don't know how classifications across states do it, but in Texas we do like different A's. So I came from a 6A high school, which is the biggest high school. There's around 3,000 students in my school, and my graduating class had like 750 kids. But at my high school, the normality was for kids to go to college. My high school is predominantly white, and so with that being the normality, education was highly pressed. And so I felt like I was ready for college, and I felt that way through my first and second semester. But a lot of my friends came from situations that weren't like that, and I definitely recognize both. And I agree with Raven, like that. It's tough, and it's a terrible situation, but it is there.
What came to mind was thinking about demographics of high school. Faith and I attended the same high school, of course, at different times, but I went to Trenton Central High School. We know how Trenton High is, okay? Not a lot of people get to Ivy League schools from our school, and much less a 4-year college and graduate. So what were the so Sean already shared, he went to a 6A school, predominantly white. And I always find it fascinating, those, the demographics of your high school and how you decide if you want to go to a PWI or not. So can everybody else share the demographics of your high school?
Yeah, my high school.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, my high school was predominantly Black. Yeah, you can go ahead, Raven.
My high school was Black. I had like 2 white kids and 1 white teacher.
My high school was, I don't know, I guess it was probably like majority white. Technically, it was probably like 60% white, but There was a decent amount of Black and Latino students, but it was majority white though.
Should I go?
Faith,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Trenton High is predominantly Hispanic and Black, like a few white students, a few Asian students, but heavily Black.
Mm-hmm.
Sean?
When I say predominantly white, I mean I could count on 3 hands the number of Black people in my graduating class. That's what I mean by predominantly
On
white.
3 hands.
On 3 hands, not 2. I won't say 2, but I'll say 3.
Okay. Wow. In your graduating class. Sheesh. Out of 700. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, so that was really insightful. So moving on to student success and support services, as we talk about that transition from high school to college, everyone had a varying level, varying degrees of support. So show of hands, did you engage academic advisors outside of course scheduling at college? So on your college campus, do you have any contact with your advisors? Okay, so 2, Sam was like, maybe. Okay, Sam.
It depends. Yeah.
Oh, it depends. So outside of course selection?
Oh, I mean, it's like, I guess they require you to see a counselor, like, I think it was just freshman year, at least once a semester. So I went in there, and after seeing, like, I felt like the advice wasn't really good. So that was the last time I, like, went to a counselor formally.
Okay. And then Bree and Faith, anything to add? Has their support helped you? Can you give us maybe an example of how it's helped you as you?
Yeah, at Duke, we have like several different advisors for different things. So there's your college advisor, and then once you get a major, you get a major advisor. And then there's like the pre-professional provisors. So I'm a pre-health student, so I'm literally always seeing a pre-health advisor. So I think their advice is super helpful. Yeah, I mean, pretty much my advisors have been pretty good.
Similar to Bree, our freshman and sophomore year, you have to see your academic advisors like to choose classes, but you can also visit her for like general advice. And she did help me a lot with like getting into certain programs. And then junior, senior year, you have your like thesis and like writing advisor, who's also like your department advisor. So she's played a key role in like my research and all those things. And then you have like your dean and just people who you can go to for different issues that you're going through on campus. So yeah, there's like a pretty good range of people to consult with.
Perfect. And so we received a question that I think was probably more directed toward me or Shamel. And I'll read the question. How can university administration, professors, and fellow student allies create a more inclusive and equitable environment at PWI? And actually, this is a really good question for the students too. I was able to capture the higher ed side of it. And so I'm going to share what that response was. It was to do a couple of things, create a safe space to engage in dialogue, include in university strategic plan. So making it a long-term discussion, not just a tactic. Recruit and retain people from diverse backgrounds, review your policies and practices via an equity lens and address those inequities, and implement training for campus community. And lastly, develop academic programs that promote equity and inclusion. So I don't know if any of y'all's colleges have maybe a center for racial justice, or I know at TCU they have a newer program that focuses on that. So can anyone speak to what their schools are doing when it pertains to equity and inclusion?
So at TCU, they actually introduced a whole new major called CRESS. I can't remember the I just lost the acronym. I had it and I just lost it. But she pretty much already described it. And I'm actually taking a class in it next semester, and so that's pretty much how they're trying to include more.
I feel like Princeton has programs and they have, like organizations, but I don't think they're doing enough. And we can see that like in a lot of the backlash that they're receiving now on the racial inequity, be it in the classroom environment, people not being penalized when they do certain things that make Black students and students of color very uncomfortable and feel like they're being targeted. So I think just like like you said, like creating more things and it not being like a publicity stunt or like something to just like live in the temporary and not in the long term. I think they need to be willing to listen to their students, because what we often see is that they're ignored. Students are ignored until something drastic happens, like the recent, political tension, and then that's when they want to start implementing change and like showing all these things that they're doing well. So I think just listening to their students.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Faith about listening to the students and really taking their suggestions to heart and then actually doing something and seeing some policy changes. I think Duke does do like a lot of like face value things. There are a lot of classes and like social equity classes and organizations that they bring in to do like diversity and inclusion training. But I feel like it'd be nice if we could see more like practical steps taken on the university like field, in the classrooms, things like that.
Okay, thanks so much for y'all's feedback on that. Shamel?
Yes, I'm sorry, I had to unmute myself. Okay, so now we are moving on to the college prep and selecting the right college. Some of you all already talked about how you selected your school. So let's talk about myths and stereotypes. I'm kind of skipping around on some of the questions. So what have been some stereotypes about your college or your type of college? And let us know, are they true or not? Just talk about it a little bit.
I think in regards to UNC, I know sometimes a stereotype that comes from, especially a lot of HBCU students, they'll say like we thought maybe that we were too good to go to an HBCU, so that's why we chose a PWI. And trying to think of other stereotypes. I don't know. I just know that's a big one, and I just definitely don't think that's the case. There's a lot of students who I know they want to go to an HBCU, but there's 100 reasons why they couldn't, like financial reasons, because there's several that are private schools like Morehouse, Howard, and they couldn't afford to go. But UNC, if you're in state, you might qualify for a lot of scholarships because they want North Carolinians, a lot of them. So I know that's one of the big reasons why.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stigma about when Black students choose PWIs is because we think we're too good for HBCU, or we're trying to be above other Black students at HBCUs, when that's just not the case. But particularly for Old Dominion, Old Dominion has a reputation of a party school, and kind of is. It kind of is a party school. It does get a little crazy sometimes, but on the other hand, the academics is very nice too. So it's a good balance, but it does get a little crazy sometimes.
Going off the theme of parties, Princeton is known for not having great parties. I mean, people have different experiences, but I can say from my experience, it's true. We don't have good parties. Only the ones that are like thrown by the Black community, but otherwise it's just
kind of lame.
Okay. Oh, sorry, can I go?
Yes, please.
I would say at TCU, when you first take a tour of campus, you come and you see a beautiful campus. It's always sunny at every TCU tour, I promise. Always sunny. But you come and the campus is really beautiful and everybody's smiling. Everybody's like, go frogs, giving each other's hugs on campus. And it looks like a big family. But then once you actually get here, you realize that the campus is kind of split. You have your white Greek life and your Black Greek life, and there's not a lot of mix. And that's kind of how the students go. And so, it's pretty bad, but that's pretty much, that's one of the biggest myths. Just like TCU is one big family. I mean, it is, but to an extent, there still is a great divide in the middle of it. So.
Yeah, I'd say for Duke, it's just like a lot of rich kids running around. And that sometimes is true. I would say like about 60% of the students actually like pay the whole tuition out of pocket, $78,000. Good for them. But like, there's like some other people that like me and a lot of other people who don't pay that much. And I do say like, sometimes there is like that divide between those who are like, I mean, the top 1% and then the middle class and low income students. So, but yeah, there's a lot of rich kids.
I would say the way that like some schools look at, I guess like UNC, some schools are like, other schools might think that we're kind of bougie That's kind of how UNC students look at Duke. Like, Duke students think that like they're too good to go to like a public school like UNC, so they went to Duke. My brother went to Duke, so that's kind of what we always joke about.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Yeah. Which is not true. I mean, for some of them, it's true.
I've been to your campus a couple
no problem
times.
with public schools. I came from public school.
All right.
That Chapel Hill Duke rivalry will never go away, will it?
Never. So what has been the biggest challenge with the PWI, if you think there was a challenge? So maybe only 2 students or 2 panelists.
My biggest challenge, I would say, at my PWI, because Old Dominion is a PWI, but it's pretty 50-50. Like the Black student community at Old Dominion is strong. So I wouldn't say that I had an issue too much trying to find other Black students, but I would say my issue mainly came in the classroom when I got around to, your second, third year, when they start telling you need an internship, or they start putting that in the back of your head, like get your resume together, all of that. I just like a quick story. I remember my intro class, because I'm coming from PG County, Maryland, where they were just trying to get people to graduate and not very worried about the college aspect. So intro to sports management class, one of our first assignments was to print out our resumes and black out our names just so we could see how we stack up to everybody in the class. My resume was not nowhere in comparison to all the other Caucasian kids, but that's just because they've had so many more opportunities before they even got to college. Like it's an intro class, it's freshman year. How are your resumes 3 pages long? Like it's crazy. So just that probably was my biggest issue, was just the realization that I do have a lot of catching up to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So let's see, if you would do it all over again, raise your hand if you would pick your school again, like knowing what you know now, you would still do it all over again. Okay, thank y'all for your honesty. All right, so I'll turn it back over to Danielle.
Awesome, thank you. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about the school community. So we got a lot of questions, like Shamel mentioned earlier, directly about the Black experience. So how active are BIPOC students, Black, which stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color, student organizations, and how have they helped you personally?
I feel like my time at Princeton is what it is because I've been so heavily involved in the Black community. Like I was on the board for BSU, for PASA. I'm in an African dance group called Doro. Like I'm like, just like I've been built up around these communities, and it's really helped me just like find my own, like my community. It's helped me find my balance. I've been able to receive a lot of mentorship from these programs. And then I think for like incoming people, like I feel like we do have a lot of like Black organizations for people to join, but it can also, like, there's a lot of like politics that also comes with it. But you'll find your people. There's a lot to choose from. There's a lot to get involved with, and it's just like a safe place to really feel like you're yourself and you can openly be yourself without any judgment.
I feel like with UNC, there's like over 800 plus student organizations. So if you want to join something, before you think of making one, it's probably already there, which I think has been great. Every week I find out about a new organization. So it's specifically like minority-led organizations. There's like our Black Student Movement. I think that's the largest minority organization on our campus. And just things like that have really helped me find community. I think build confidence. I've found ways to network and just become a better person and student through these organizations. So they're really good on UNC's campus.
At TCU, there's already not a lot of Black students, and you won't find a Black student, at least who's not an athlete, who's not in a Black organization. So although there's not a lot of us, we are pretty strong with our organizations and we support each other very well. So.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, have you experienced any uncomfortable race-related situations at your school? If so, how is it handled? Definitely don't feel pressured to share if you have experience.
I had one. I just remembered. I was at work like one late night, and this drunk white student Like he came barging through, he was like tossing like tables down and like chairs down, and like I have to fix this. So I was like, sir, can you please not do that? And then he made like this comment where he like gave me the middle finger, and he was like, you know, like F like Black people. And so yeah, I didn't take that too well, and I feel like I'm not one to really go to the administration unless it's like really serious. And so I spoke on it on my social media, and it actually circulated to him, and he reached out and like he apologized, like you know, made up for it. But like that's a rare case because people normally don't even reach out or try to apologize for it. They'll just let it be. And so yeah, you'll find that once in a while.
Thanks for sharing.
My experience wasn't really too much faculty or like academic related. It just happened like a night out, you know, you're just hanging out with your friends at like, we was coming home, you know, people are drunk. So the situation that happened, I don't want to get into details about what was said, but in that situation, I just chose to ignore it. A lot of times at these PWIs, you gotta, of course, speak up for yourself, but know the situation, realize where you at, pick your battles. Like, it's not worth getting in the argument with the drunk white girl outside your dorm, you know, because at the end of the day, if it comes down to it and you really go to faculty, you're probably going to be the one, you know. So I would definitely say just pick your battles. Don't let anything just happen, but certain things, you know, you like we've been doing, you just kind of gotta just let it go. Not with what happened at Princeton. That was very disrespectful. But in my situation, I just had to let that go.
So is everyone kind of aware, has their university made it clear how to report these incidences? Just by show of hands, like, do you kind of have a rough idea of how to report something, even if you needed to? Okay, kind of, sort of. Okay, that's good to know. So earlier, Sam and everyone kind of touched on this about kind of code switching, right? We call it kind of code switching now, and how you just kind of, I know Sam said after sophomore year, he was just exhausted. So is there a place where you all can lean on for support if you were, when you were in that situation and kind of felt like you had to put on for the white students at your school? Did you lean on these Black organizations that you're involved in, or did you just kind of, how did you work through that?
I think sometimes, I mean, I think it's usually the leaders of the Black organizations that we get exhausted. I think it's because like we throw ourselves in everything, you know? And so like, I think there's support, of course, in the Black community, but I think it's like Raven said, those friends you really made, I think freshman year and over time, those are the people, you know, I go to really like decompress. I don't bring out my resume and talk about politics with them and stuff like that. You know, I think that's where you get to be yourself. I think, you know, sometimes like Faith said, sometimes politics get in the way of organizations sometimes, but really your friendship, I think, is one of the most valuable things you're going to take away from college.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely forming that support system so you have people to lean on, whether it's friends or maybe just a few professors on the campus. At Duke, we also have this place called the Mary Lou Williams Center for Black culture, I think. And so that's a really nice space where Black students can come and just decompress and like talk amongst themselves, and like they have events and they have like jazz on Wednesdays. So it's just like a really nice center where you can come and be yourself and be authentic. You don't have to code switch because we all know what's up. So that's really nice.
Yeah, kind of along the lines of code switching. Like, I'm Nigerian, so like my dance group is really like a safe haven for me to really just embrace my culture, where I can't do that as much elsewhere. And even like the BSU events, like we have a lot of like town halls where we discuss the realest topics that you normally wouldn't outside of it, and people feel like open and they feel safe to just speak out on these things. So definitely like get involved in your Black organizations. Like they'll help you more than anything else.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So should we move on to health and wellness? Okay. So how do you take care of your mental health during school? Have you gone to campus health services or whatever they call it at your school?
I can start. So I think having strong mental health and being resilient is so important. So for me to take care of my mental health, I do a lot of journaling. I also went to it's called CAPS, which is Counseling and Psychological Services. So I did like a little couple therapy sessions. So really just focusing and prioritizing on me, which I mean, sometimes I'm not the best at. I'm going to be honest, my first semester, we needed some help, but I definitely got on it and figured out how to prioritize myself, but still do well in school. So definitely journaling and just self-care, just taking care of me, making more me time, because I was always doing everything else for everyone else except me. So that was a big thing for me.
Yes, that's important. Self-care is definitely a key word. And for the panelists, well, not just the panelists, excuse me, the participants, it's free on your campus or on college campuses. So take advantage of all those free resources.
Because you got to pay once you get into the real world and become an adult.
Absolutely.
Sean, did you have something to add? I saw you came off of mute.
Yeah, I actually got really good advice from one of my mentors at TCU. He told me to treat your academic day as if it was an 8 to 5 job, because, you know, you have your classes and then you do your homework outside of your classes, but sometimes you find yourself doing your homework really late into the day. So if you treat your 8 to 5 like an actual job and you go hard at it, you go to lunch, you keep going, you go hard, for the rest of the night, for the rest of the evening, that time is to yourself. You can go work out, you can go hang with friends. And that's what I found kind of helped my mental health, make sure I wasn't just sitting in a room looking at a computer screen all day and night, you know what I'm saying, trying to keep up. So.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else before we move on? Okay. So switching gears to job and career prep. So show of hands again, who here has a job or works during the school year? So, okay, raise your hand if you're working on campus, maybe work study. Okay. Raven, I'm assuming you're off campus. Yes, okay. Okay, well, I guess Raven, you work off campus. Has anyone done an internship so far? Okay. Oh, perfect. Everyone's done an internship. Great. Is it manageable with the classes in your class load? Or was it manageable with your class load? Yes. Okay. Awesome. Perfect. So any big companies or any good companies that you all worked at? I'd just real quick, just shout out where you worked for your internship.
I wasn't like a big company, but my major is sports management. So I've been like AAU travel basketball. Yeah. I've been interning with this big AAU team in DC, but they're sponsored by Under Armour, so I don't know if that's a connection, but I've been kind of speaking with Under Armour people. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did my internship with Duke Community Health. It was Duke Family Medicine. So yeah, I work with them over the summer and a little bit throughout the year.
Okay.
All right, y'all. Thank you for your answers. Let's see. We do have a question in the chat, and we will get to that in one moment. Thank you for asking one of our participants. Okay, so for college life, what do you wish you had known before enrolling at your school? Maybe 2 to 3 panelists.
Everyone's kind of like, Anyone? Well, considering everyone said they would, if they could do it again, they would come back. It doesn't, I'm not sure if, well, Brianna, you took yourself off of mute, so go ahead.
Yeah, I would say probably, I would like to know that it was going to be like a big learning curve for me, and just to be prepared for that. Like, I don't think that I expected to just jump in and like start soaring or anything, but I don't think I realized how big of the learning curve it was going to be. One, just living by yourself, that's huge by itself. And then also, I mean, it was very academically rigorous at school. So just like, I wish I had known about the learning curve and to be patient with myself. Like, I feel like I wasn't very patient. I was like, we need to get this right now, hurry up. And so I just wish I had known that there would be a learning curve, and 2, to just be patient. I'm going to get it. It's going to be fine. You got this.
I think I agree with what Bree said. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I had a similar experience, but I felt like I wish I was more patient with myself because I think I just I thought, I don't know, I thought I could handle it all, like socializing and trying to get good grades. And I was really struggling because like I'm pre-med, but I was not like keeping up with everybody else who would say like, oh, I got a 95. Like I was leaving with C's, you know, and it was really discouraging because everybody's talking about what schools they're going to get into, and they complain they have a 3.9, and I'm like, you know, like it wasn't my reality. So I had to learn to be patient, and also, I think like Bree said earlier, like just stop comparing yourself. You have your own journey. Like none of my friends are pre-med with me, so I couldn't keep studying with them. I had to study like with different people and learn to trust like my timeline is my own. So I wish I knew that and stop worrying about like what's the next 4 years looking like, who am I trying to keep up with, etc.
I think I saw Raven. You were going to say something, and then we'll move on.
I was just going to say something on the lighter note. I wish I knew I was going to be doing all that walking, but
oh, gotcha. Yeah, college is a lot of walking, for sure. Okay, so did you guys feel like you missed out on the Black experience you would have gotten at an HBCU?
Honestly, for me, no. Just because, like, I have a strong Black community. Like, I have mostly Black friends at Princeton than anything else. And like me and my friends, we talk about this so much because like we feel like we have our own little like HBCU, even though it doesn't compare at all. And we can like visit an HBCU for the party scene, but like I feel like we get what we need out of Princeton, and we know that it's temporary. Like this is not a forever place. We're just here to get what we need and go. So I feel pretty content.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the Black community at Duke is pretty strong. I mean, sometimes I do miss the band and the cheerleaders, I'm not gonna lie, but Central is right down the street. So, I mean, it's right there. It's like a 5-minute drive away. So, you know?
Yeah, I would say the same. At TCU, the Black community actually travels to different HBCUs across Texas a lot. We do it a lot more than people think. And so I wouldn't say I miss it because when homecoming comes, I'm probably at Prairie View or somewhere else. So it's literally the same experience. I just take classes at TCU. That's just how it goes.
Definitely, I would say the same thing. This is where it's important to do your research on the actual Black community at the PWI that you're choosing, because as we're all saying, you know, we have this strong Black student community, so we're not really feeling like we're missing out on the HBCU experience, especially because like a lot of PWIs have sister HBCUs or whatever you want to call it, that's probably like 15 minutes down the street.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your answers. So we're going to pivot real quick to scholarships, and financial aid. And then we're going to go to any questions that we have in the chat. So if you have any questions, again, go ahead and drop them in the chat or in the Q&A area. So is anyone here first generation? Okay, so on y'all's campus, is there any special programming or programming specifically for first-gen students? And if you partake in any of that programming, can you talk a little bit about it? Faith, you're not.
So we have a program called FSI, which is like the Freshman Scholars Institute for first-gen low-income students. And we get to come to Princeton the summer before our freshman year begins, and we take 2 classes. So it kind of helps us get acclimated into like the rigor of Princeton before everyone else comes, and like all the extracurricular activities get added into it. And that was really helpful because it helped me transition and really get like a better understanding of how the academics work and just how like to start my social life without feeling too overwhelmed. And then after freshman year, there's a program called CIFP, which is still for first and low income. It's like a graduation of FSI. So we still have our tight-knit community. We know one another. We have events to like help us meet professors. So I think Princeton did a good job in investing in this program. Sorry for the background noise. Because we feel like we have a place to go to. There's a building to go to if you need any like advising on like work or I don't know, like any academic problems, social problems. So yeah, we have a pretty good amount.
At Old Dominion, I wouldn't say that they took it to that extent to make sure the first gen students was as compensated as they was at Princeton, but they do make an effort to check in on you. Like I remember my first year, after every like periodically through the semester, I would get an email from my advisor, like a generic email, like hey, first gen student, how's the semester going for you? Do you need to set up an appointment? Things like that. But it wasn't no classes or nothing. It was just periodic check-ins.
Awesome. And so my second question, do you have any advice on pursuing scholarships, either from your college or outside of school? So think maybe when you were in high school, scholarships you applied for, or while you're already in school, any scholarships you applied to while you were in college?
I think it's incredibly important, regardless if you think you may qualify for scholarships, make sure you handle that like financial, like FAFSA and all the financial aid information, get it in as soon as possible. Because like me, I come from a lower income household. So my dad, he saw what's the deadline. He said, you better make that deadline. Cause like for me, there was the only way I'm paying for college was through a scholarship. So I was able to qualify for this like Carolina Covenant. It's one of the UNC scholarships where they provide pretty much they try to make sure that you graduate debt free from UNC. And that's if you fall below a certain like federal income level. But there's other scholarships and merit scholarships. I think UNC does a pretty good job of if you call the office, ask them questions, they help you understand maybe what your financial situation is looking like. And yeah, I think providing income for people who may or may not be sure. But if you don't do your financial aid and background information, they can't help you. So that's number one.
And then I think you'd be surprised how you actually have to go to the office and speak to them. But once you get into school, there's a lot of scholarships for things once you get in there, and you'd be surprised how willing, you hear a lot of bad reps about financial aid offices, but you'll be surprised how willing they are to help you. Like in my situation, a counselor just found $3,000 to pay for my last semester. Like just because I was telling her my situation, everything I've been going through, and I had good grades, so it wasn't like I wasn't, actually there, in college and everything. So if you're on your stuff and really passionate and you're telling them, you got to advocate for yourself, you'll be surprised what can happen.
Thank y'all.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with Raven about being passionate and just advocating for yourself. So at Duke, we have 10 merit scholarships, I think, and I think every applicant gets screened. So as long as you apply, you get screened for a merit scholarship. I also did like a lot of applications outside of that. I definitely think local scholarships are probably the best ones to apply to for like organizations that you were in or your church group. Bank scholarships are really good. Anything locally, those are really good scholarships. And just be ready to get a lot of no's, but you just have to keep applying. Just keep applying. There's some money out there. They might tell you no, but just keep going.
Very, very good advice. So we have 2 questions in the chat. I know we're wrapping up, y'all. So with a show of hands, I don't think anybody is Greek in here besides Danielle and myself, but if you were, are you going to be in a Black fraternity or sorority or a white fraternity? So raise your hand if you were to be Greek. If you were to be in a Black sorority or fraternity? Okay, raise your hand if you, okay, well, never mind. Okay, so there you have it. Danielle and I are both in a Black sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Thank you very much. Okay, anyway, so yeah, that's that. I never considered a white sorority, but yeah. Danielle, you wanted to say something?
We have one last question here in the chat. Do you ever feel left out being a Black student at a PWI, which I think is a good question. We can end on this one. We've talked about a lot tonight. So if you can just give us some parting words, let us know if you ever feel left out, and then parting words and advice for students who are in their search and vacillating between HBCUs and PWIs.
I think I sometimes do feel left out. Like I'm the only Black male in my major, like health policy management. I'm the only Black guy I see in class every day of the week. But so a lot of times I see people that look like me, I got to go back to my dorm. But like sometimes it makes me feel left out because in conversation sometimes like I feel like there's certain stereotypes that people may carry with themselves that maybe they try to like form opinions about me. As soon as I enter the classroom, they tend to judge me. But I feel like I've learned though to see like those are opportunities to open the doors, because I've had students ask me about the program. they want to be in health, they want to be in medicine, but they don't see nobody else doing it. So I feel encouraged to feel like sometimes you're the only one in the room, but you're encouraging those behind you. And honestly, especially in the world of health, less than 2% of physicians are Black men. So I just believe if you're the only person that looks like you in the room, you're probably in the right place because you're making changes for those behind you.
That's great. Thank you, Sam. Anyone else? Brianna?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's easy to feel left out, even like from the white community or the Black community, but I think it's just about like putting yourself out there and having the courage to be your authentic self at all times. And if people don't like that, that's on them. So I really think like if you actually reach out, even when you feel left out, most times people don't want to leave you out. Like sometimes they are excluding you on purpose, but most times they're not. So if you like reach out and you're like, hey, I'm Bree, I'm really into this and I like that, they'll usually talk right back to you, at least in my experience, and then you're in. So I think it's really about being passionate, knowing who you are, and really just opening yourself up and having the courage to reach out to other people.
Yeah, I would say as far as being left out, I think you just have to be really strong in your self-identity, know what you're bringing to the table. Like we was talking about self-advocation, like you have to be sure in what you're doing. Like, do everything. If somebody wants to like do everything with a purpose, do everything on purpose. You don't want to make, oh, I'm just making an accident here, making an accident here. So, you want to do everything with a purpose. And as far as being left out, if people want to leave you out, that's on them, because you know what? You're great. So don't let anybody smush you. Don't let anybody minimize your thoughts. Don't be afraid to be there and be heard.
Faith, Sean, any parting words?
Yeah, I was left out like in a class that I had. It was a really big class, and like the students were just really like, I didn't have any friends, I didn't have anyone to lean on, and I was often like the last person picked for like group projects. I just had to learn how to like de-stress with my friends after class, like just have a group where I can go to and just feel like, okay, I can be myself again. And even in class, like don't be willing, I guess, to like seek help, be willing to ask people if they want to work with you, things like that. And also know that it's temporary. Like the class will end eventually and you can leave. And once you get your grade, you're good. So just try to like keep positive in times when you feel like you're the only one or you feel isolated, and know that as long as you're focused on what you're doing, like you're going to be great.
The only thing I agree with all of that. What I would add to it is in the times that you feel left out, allow that to motivate you to do whatever you can to do more and better than those people that left you out in the first place. Because there's obviously something wrong with them that they don't want you, because you, like Raven said, you're the best. So, just keep that in mind. Just, stay vigilant and stay positive and just go against the grain of everything and you'll be fine.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. You all are such a talented bunch with bright futures ahead of you. Just don't forget about me and Shamel, the little people, okay? So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I will send out a link. Oh, Raven, do you have something to add?
I was gonna ask, since you're recording this, was there somewhere we could see this recording?
Yeah, so I'm gonna send out an email with a link to a survey and also a link to this Zoom recording. So it will be available, and I'll send that out probably within the week. Shamel, do you have any parting words?
Thank you all so much. The panelists, we love you guys. The participants, thank you. I hope you learned a lot. I put my contact information in the chat. You can find me at The Keys to College on Instagram and keys2collegellc.com. And I put Danielle's information in the chat, but go ahead, Danielle, and let them know where they can find you.
Thank you. Yes, at the College Visit Journal on Facebook and Instagram, and or thecollegevisitjournal.com. Thank you, Shamel. What would I do with that?
Absolutely. Oh, by the way, if you want to see the interview that Danielle and Bree did, go to Danielle's Instagram, at the College Visit Journal on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Bree, high school. Yeah. Huh? We talked about Bree and how she prepared in high school for college. So if you're curious about how your student could be preparing go back and check out what Brianna talked about.
Yeah, and she talked about her GPA and her SAT scores. Juicy information.
All right, thank you all. Have a wonderful night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.